The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and welcome to yet another feature focus session. I hope you can hear me correct, else write to me in the chat. This is the second to last feature focus session of 2015. And it's a continuation from last time. And if you didn't see that last time, it was regarding print delivery and report actions. And it's on the system on YouTube if needed. But today we will dive into a fairly advanced topic of print delivery. You should know print delivery a bit. I won't go into details on how it works, but more go into what this more advanced thing, which is called custom and internal reporting, can do. So let's begin. As I mentioned in the chat, if you have questions along the way, just ask them and we will take them. Else there's a Q&A session at the end. So once you get Boyum print delivery the first time, you are greeted with this window, which is the startup wizard. And you can see a lot of different things that we support in the system, all the sales document, all the purchase documents, and so on. And this is what we call out-of-box experience. Basically, set the checkbox, and you get a system where it automatically prints emails with a fixed format. Then you can, of course, go in and change a lot of this using the report actions and so on. So that's what we have. But there is also other scenarios, and they're divided into two groups, which are our two topics today. So one scenario is that you have some kind of thing that you want to deliver, but it's not really to a customer, like you have an invoice or a payment. It's for internal employees. It could be for managers, or it could be some third-party people. So it could be a KPI report. It could be a manager report. It could be an internal information to some employees or something like that. I have some examples in just 1 second. So things that's still in SAP, but not really dependent on a specific screen or anything. It's just some overview data, some hierarchical data that makes sense to send out to one or more people in the system. The other scenario, which I put in red here, is where we actually want to deliver something to business partners, like invoices and so on, but it's something that's not covered by print delivery. Either it doesn't have a checkbox here, but still is part of SAP, or it's actually an add-on or UDO you have made, and it doesn't have any capabilities of printing itself. So we can enhance that with print delivery. So some examples for internal could be like absence reports, some open overdue documents, monthly sales figure, employee KPIs, and whatever you find that makes sense, or whatever your customer find makes sense. Not out of the box scenarios could be things like if you for some reason need to print out journal entries. For right now, we have said that's not an out of the box experience because nobody really does it, but there must be a business out there that needs to do it, and if they want to, they can set it up instead of having it out of the box. It could be UDOs, either from other add-ons or systems. That's actually one of the demos. So other add-ons could be, essentially it's the same add-on, but for example, we want print delivery's recurring invoice system. There's no system there to print out your recurring invoice template to send to the customers, showing them how the template looks like. That would be possible to set up if needed. Or it could be some kind of other add-on from one of the other SSPs out there, or something you have developed yourself, and you haven't put in any email or print capabilities, and you would actually be able to do that using print delivery. There's a few limitations. I will talk a little about them, but else it's try to see if things will work. So this is what's called internal reporting, and this is what's called custom reporting. So internal reporting is not really linked to a specific screen, while custom reporting is linked to a screen that B1 printer delivery doesn't know anything about normally. So this is basically the slides I have before the demos. So what I will do today, I will show you two demos, one for internal reporting and one for custom reporting. And then I will show you three live samples in some slides here, which are actually three internal things we do with the system. So you can see it's not only what we come up with during demos, it's actually also something we do use internally live, and other people can get inspired from those live systems. So let's begin. Yeah. So we are switching to business one. And the first one I want to show is an internal report. So in my case, I've made a sample where I have set up that every month my manager, which in my demo is me, will get a sales performance report. And what you need to do is you need to create a report configuration, give it a name and a category of type other, and there's something called internal. So internal meaning I don't go to a specific screen, like if I want to print an invoice, I normally go to an ER invoice. If I want to go to an order, I go to This is not something I run from a specific window. I run it from the master delivery system. So in this case, I've set this up, and the first thing that happens, I will go to step by step what needs to be done in order to make this. I've pre-prepared it, but again, go into every detail. So the first thing is to create a crystal report. In my case, I don't have any parameters for this crystal report. I will show it in 1 second. But there can be parameters if needed, but remember, it cannot really be from any screen. So the parameter could be that you have a specific year or a specific user. So it could be sales KPIs for this employee, this employee, this employee, and so on. So in my case, I've made this crystal report. Haven't gone into very much detail on giving the right data. It's not part of the demo. I just made it very simple to understand. So in here I have some data. And to keep it as simple as possible, I've simply just taken the doc entry, the card code, the card name, and the doc total from OINB. Not really a yearly or monthly sales they employ, but that's just the wear conditions. And we're not here to learn about the SQL itself or the crystal, but just to get some data. So my data is just some invoices, and I put in a small chart and put in the data in here, which essentially end up being this report. And what I could do, of course, would be to just take this, not use print and delivery, have a button that some manager could go in, press that button, and see the data. But managers don't tend to do that. They don't want to. They just want to have it handed into them. Some managers even don't have access to Business One, but you can still give them data like this. So this is the crystal. As I mentioned, that's linked here. Nothing special, just a crystal. I hooked that up there, and then I've made a report action of type email. Again, with nothing specific, I just have my text on what should be sent out and what it should be called, and that it should be a PDF connected to the system. This is one of the cases where you normally use the direct email, and in my case, I've set it to myself so I can demo it for you. Of course, it would be to the manager or a specific set of users that should have those sales data. Because such reports normally runs off the server component and outside every system, I have set up that it uses SMTP. So this is just our SMTP server internally, both for the client method and the delivery method. So it is technically possible to use Outlook, but then you cannot use it inside the system of scheduling. So again, nothing special compared to what we have done with other normal print and deliveries. But what we need to do now is we need to go to mass delivery and then right click and say mass delivery configuration. So in mass delivery configuration, we have this the different configurations of mass delivery, and I put in one more. I basically switched to add mode, put in sales performance, and chose type internal. And this is needed in order for it to appear down here, so I can choose who the users should be who are able to see those and so on. And also I need to tell that I want to allow other users to choose different reports when running mass delivery, because when I choose internal in here, I need to be able to choose that specific one, the sales performance. I also have another one here, just as a simple example. So I'm able to actually choose what of among all the internal reports I have, what should be the ones be used. So that's pretty much what you need to do. And you can end up using the mass delivery, choose that it should go to an email and run the sales performance. And if I do that, it now creates me an email, and we need to wait a few seconds until our SMTP server has sent it to my local Outlook. I have another screen, so I'll just open it up for you in 1 second. Here it comes. So this is the email as the first test running it, having the text I wrote and the PDF. And the PDF is, of course, the data in the system. So this was me running the report for others and sending it to my manager. But again, we don't really want to use our time on this. It should just go out every month or every week or whatever we want. So we take this setup now and we go up to P1UP's administration and into print and delivery and set up a schedule. So the schedule is this one. It's named sales performance. The mass delivery we want to use is sales performance, and the configuration itself is also sales performance. So lots of sales performance, but essentially setting up that this is the schedule sending out the sales performance. We want to email it and some success and error emails, and we then set up a schedule. So in my case, I've set up that at 2 in the morning, monthly, on the 1st of every month, it will send it out. So if I activated this, waited for the first 2 in the morning, it's the first today when this is being recorded, so a little too late, but I could set that tomorrow at 8, it would send it out for me automatically without me needing to interact. I could just go to the manager can open the email, see the data, and is up and running. So internal reporting is quite easy to set up. You need to have the right idea. What takes the most time is actually just creating the crystal, like it is most of the time. But if you have all the data you need to run out there, so it could be not only sales data, but it could be employees, how many service calls they have closed, or whatever you want in the system. Again, I have some few samples later on in the slides. So this is internal. If there's any questions for that, feel free to write them in chat or the question section. Else I will continue with custom reporting in just 1 second. Okay, there don't seem to be no questions so far. So again, back to this, we actually just made our monthly sales figures box, but again, other data in the crystal, and it could easily have been an absence report. Other data, it could be easily an open or overdue documents. Other data, it could have been employee. You tend to create multiple of these if you have multiple employees, and I will show that in one of the samples as well. So let's move on to custom reporting. Custom reporting is a bit more tricky, but still, it is of course possible. But here something is involved in the screen. So better to understand what is needed, let's start by opening up an AI invoice. So AI invoice is one of the ones we have with Beyond Delivery out of the box. I haven't set it up right here, but it's probably better to go to quotation where I've set it up, where we of course have all our customizations. And in my case, I had that are emailed, meaning that on my, let me get rid of this one, that on my sales quotation, I could begin to react to the buttons, and depending on the data, it sent out the email or printed or whatever. And I could even use the dynamic syntax in my emails and so on. So that's good and well. It's very easy, and that's because we essentially behind the scenes know a lot about sales quotations. We know about all the system information of a sales quotation. We know that item 4 is the card code. We know that the form type is type 149. We know what the tables behind the scenes are in the system, and that's all coded into the system. But imagine you have another screen. It could be the invoice template of the system. We cannot know if you have that screen or not. Okay, it's our own internal module. We could essentially begin to build up and support that as well. But it could just as easily be one of the other SSPs add-ons with a similar screen, but other tables, other form types, other item UIDs, and we would have no clue where the code of the business partner is, where the contact person is, and so on. So the sample for such an unknown scenario is I actually created a UDO. And my UDO is very simple. It's just a little test UDO called lease. So it's the idea is it's a leasing system for business partners, and I can put in the lease details for each of them. So I have two tables, feature and feature lines, and I've made a very simple window with the object demonstration. And if we look in here, we have the lease, which is just normal UDO. I have a default form, and I put it next to the business partner. So the screen is here. I haven't made anything additional with B1UP to make it pretty, like put in a golden arrow or such things. It's just data in the system with some header information and some lines. So now I want to take advantage of this screen, but again, it's probably all obvious to all people that our wizard would not know about this lease. How should it know what it is? How should it know what you have defined as the card code and such things? It needs to be defined by you, but if you define it, if you tell the information about the screen, it is possible for us to give you the same capabilities as the out-of-the-box scenarios. So, as always, as we saw the internal, the first thing we need to do is we need to create a crystal report. In this case, the crystal report is quite easy. I made a SQL for the header data for the lease, putting out a doc entry, and I put in the lines data for the lease, putting in the doc entry. So Crystal itself, nothing special, and you could go from there and begin to use it, but you wouldn't be able to get SAP to email for you and such things. So what we need to do is we need to define again our report configuration, and in this case our report configuration is of type custom, and it's now of type lease. So the type is defined by you. And the way you define these types is you go into the mass delivery configuration and you create a mass delivery. And you do that with the type custom. So when you choose custom compared to some of the others, you can see internal and the others don't really have that many information. They have some where conditions if you want to, but custom have some completely different data in here. First of all, it wants you to provide a SQL. So you basically need to provide a SQL that can give you the header data of the system in what you want to show in your report, in your email, and so on. We already have the Crystal up and running, and it's here. And the one doc entry parameter we have, we just provide the doc key, just as we do with all other normal systems. But if we think about it, how should it know what doc key means? Okay, it's the primary key, but it could be any type of screen. It could be this field, it could be this field. That should be your primary key that you wanted to send in as parameter. And this is what you define over here. First, you write the header SQL and get out one of the fields that is the doc key. In our case, it's the doc entry, because that was the one we put into our Crystal. We now know how to get some data. We can put in a where condition automatically on this, given the fact that you tell a little about this screen and you tell a little about the tables behind those screens. So in our case, we need to tell some UI information and some DI information. So the first thing we need to tell is the form type. So what is the form type of this? Like we had with a sales quotation, that was form type 149. You need to tell us what is the screen that actually hosts all this data you put up in the SQL. And in our case, it's the form type called UDO_FT_BOIX_lease. And we can see that by just hovering over the mouse, and in the lower left corner we can see that. Or we can take the copy system information and show it as well. Here's the form type. So we basically copy paste that and put it down here. And again, if this is a bit confusing, there is the small buttons here that will tell you exactly what you need to put into each of the fields. Then we need to tell where on the screen is the primary key, or the number you want to send to us. In our case, we have doc entry and doc number being the same, but we have it here, or we could have taken it from the table syntax instead. But it's here, and the syntax is this one, and that's the one I have down in the screen. Sorry, it's actually used this one. In my case, it doesn't matter if it's doc number or doc entry, but it will work. So whatever happens here equals this syntax, and by telling the system that's actually where you get the doc key from this screen. Similar, where do I get the business partner code so it will understand when you use email? What is the BP header? What is the so on? Because that's all based on the business partner code. So I put in the BP code. Again, this is this field, and the copy system information will give me that value in here. Then I can tell the system where is the contact code of this system. In my case, I don't really have a contact code. So contact code meaning, for example, on quotation, that's what is the contact person. So what is the ID of the contact person? And in my case, I don't have one. And luckily, I don't need to provide one if I don't have one. The only drawback of not providing one is I am not able to use the document selected contact person. But if I were able to give one, that one would work as a recipient in the report action. But in my case, I don't really have it. I could build that system, but I don't have it, so I don't put anything in here. Same, I don't really have a language ID. So in a quotation, it is possible to have a language ID here. And in that way, print and delivery can work in multiple languages. If you have a similar thing on your screen, you could put in that language ID and it would also know about languages. In my case, I don't have it, so I don't fill it out. As an absolute minimum, I need a form type, because else we don't know what screen to react to. I need a doc key, else I don't know which of the entries in that screen is I'm working on. And if I want to send emails or fetch the emails, I absolutely need the BP code. The two rest of them are not important, and BP code can be left out, but then you need to have some fixed emails or find the emails in some other way than what you can do over here. It could be direct email. So this is the UI. This is the screen up here. Similar, when I need to do this behind the scenes using the server component and mass delivery, I need to tell some information about DI, so the things in the database. So I basically need to tell where's the data stored, and that's stored in this user-defined table, BOYX lease. I need to tell what is the primary key of that table. In this case, it's doc entry, and that doc key needs to be in the SQL as well. And I need to tell where is the card code, and again, if I have a contact code and a language code, I can put them in. If I don't have them, let them be. Doing this sounds quite fairly advanced to do, but once you have done this, this screen lights up with print and delivery. So right click and you can actually see Boyum print and delivery. And in my case, I can actually see my configuration lease here, and I can do the different actions. In my case, I only set up print and email. And so essentially I can press here and I actually run that, and it's for that specific lease. And if I go to the next one, it will be for that lease instead. So I've given full access to the system by telling a simple SQL and telling the information about where's the data located. One special thing you will see in print and delivery when you do this is there's the specific map form to dynamic syntax. This means that you can tell the system what is the dynamic syntax of this screen, meaning that it will know when you write this syntax, it actually can be used in emails and so on. So if you do that, it's just a simple run, and it will run into system, and it found 6 fields that is mapped to its details and stored it in a table. this means that I can now begin to use dynamic syntax on, for example, my email. And I could use it for the different options down here. If I use direct email, I could use those dynamic syntax in order to figure out whatever I wanted to do. And it's also the one helping me understand what the doc key is by putting in this value down here. So essentially, when you fill this out, you can work as normal with this. I can email it. And I have an email popped up here that actually took along the data, header information from the field, put in the PDF, and put it in. So the power of custom, okay, it's not as out of the box as the rest, but as soon as you do this, you are able to make almost any screen in Business One do this. And the reason I say almost any screen is because let's imagine a screen like this with the general ledger and running some report. This one we cannot make into a custom delivery because this data in here is not stored in the database. It's calculated and now shown on the screen. So I wouldn't be able to make a crystal on this data. So I wouldn't be able to make a custom delivery because when I turn into this one, okay, I could fill out some of this and have a very limited version of it running with UI only. But DI, I wouldn't be able to tell what table this came from because it comes from multiple tables. I wouldn't be able to tell what doc key it is. And I wouldn't be able to tell what the BP code is. So basically, if you want to do something like this, it's an internal report where you need to write the SQL that actually generates the data. And that's the limitations of where we can go. If you have data in the system and that data can be mimicked in a crystal, we can work with it. If not, you need to do internal reporting and basically make the entire general ledger yourself. Not an easy task, but it is possible to do. Okay, let's quickly complete the mass delivery configuration we have here. In that, we of course also want a mass delivery configuration. So this is this one, and once we have it, we can go to mass delivery and find that as well in the lease. And we can actually preview what it looks like. So we have the two leases here, and I can mass deliver leases as well. So in my case, when I do that, it will actually pop up two emails for me. We have some few limitations so far with the dynamic syntax in mass delivery. We are actually working on trying to get that working as well. Kind of a small bug we have in the system right now. But if you want to do it right now, you're not allowed to use the dynamic syntax in the emails sending out like that. But again, you can actually go in here and do your printing, do your email as needed. And of course, just as the rest of the system, you will be able to go into a schedule, put in a schedule for such a report and send it out as a monthly thing if needed. Okay, so these were the two live samples I wanted to show you. Now I'll go back to the slides and in some screenshots show you 3 more samples of internal and custom delivery. And these 3 is all based on internal live things that happens in our system, our own Business One, every single day, every single month. So the first one is our absence overview. So internally at Boyum IT, we use Business One to register absence. So if someone is absent, our HR people will put it into the system, And at the end of the month, that absence needs to be sent to our salary system, and that's happening via a third-party person in the system. So what we have done is we have made a crystal that actually takes out the absence of a database. Some SQL, you can see it here. Nothing fancy, but you still need to know a little about it. And what it does is it takes from the 25th of each month and 1 month back and send that as a crystal. We take that crystal, put it into as a crystal report definition. We then make an email report action where it actually tells who it should send it to. So we have an internal person and the external person in the system of who should receive it. And we send it out using SMTP because this is happening behind the scenes in the system with the scheduler. We then made a crystal report configuration, linking that crystal report, and we can preview it and we can email it. We don't really email. Printing is just for, or previewing is just for testing. We then made the internal mass delivery, so we have it, and we put in the schedule. And in our case, we set up that at 18 o'clock every month on the 24th, send out this email, and the end result is this crystal in a PDF, where it takes all the employees of Boyum IT for the period and tells from this time to this time this person had holiday and that was approved by this person and so on. So in that regard, you can make your absence sharing information. In our case, we need to share it. Other times, it's something else you want to put in internally. But this basically saved our HR person that every month she needed to go into the system, put in the correct information, get out a bit crummy print layout designer, set and copy pasted the data into an email and send it out to the party who was responsible for the salary. Now they don't even think about it. They just enter the information, and at the end of the month it will automatically send it out. So that's one sample of what you can do with this for an internal report. Another one is something we send out every Wednesday to our salespeople. So they have a lot of information in the system. Of course, they do invoices, quotations, and such things. And we made, in this case, an empty report, because in this case, I actually don't want to send out a crystal. I just want to send an email with some data in it. I made, using the report action and the special keywords called SQL HTML table, I actually choose some data for that specific person, including their user ID, send it out. So if you have many sales employees, there's quite a setup, but for each sales employee, you actually need a report action, so it's specific to them. So it basically tells them, hey, you have this many overdue items. I will show the email in 1 second. Here's how many overdue quotations you have. Here's how many overdue opportunities you have. Here's how many overdue activities. Please go in and update them, close them if needed, or get move them to another date in the future. So lots of SQL, but nothing rocket science in any way in getting this data. Made again an internal report and told for each sales employee you have, put in a schedule, and in this case, it runs the overdue items. And at 8 o'clock weekly on Wednesdays, they get this email, so they can follow up on what they have overdue compared to last week. The report looks a little like this. So in this case, it's a sales employee called Kent. and he have 9 overdue items right now. Here's the numbers of those items and how far they are overdue. So we should really take care of that one, I can see. How many are overdue opportunities, activities, and so on. So again, it's the crystal, it's the SQL, setting the limits on what you can do. But again, as I mentioned, in my case, I cannot show it here, but in a report action, you can tell I actually don't want an attachment. And in that case, I normally just make a dummy crystal report that doesn't get included in any way, and just set it as no attachment. And then use the HTML table syntax. I can show. I have one in here from last time, I think. Yeah, here's an HTML table. So in that regards, I now have a system that periodically tells my sales employees to remember to follow up on all their open items in our system, without me needing to push it out manually or them needing to go in and run the reports themselves. Next sample, and the last one, is email of P1 time task, which is a custom report. And we're even doing this with a button. So again, live sample. In this case, again, I don't want a crystal by definition, so I actually just make an empty crystal report. I do an email of type HTML. So essentially, this is a button that you put on B1 time task window, and when you press it, it will send out an email to the people who are working on that task in order to give a progress. So the email is, if I can get a status of the task, what's the progress, can it be invoiced, and then some information about that invoice, that task. Again, put it in as type custom. I will show that in 1 second. And there's a crystal, and there's an email. The email we just saw, and the crystal we just saw. So in this case, it's the email. Mass delivery, again, as minimum tell form type and doc key. And form type and doc key, in this case, you saw, you can actually see it, but the recipients is based on SQL. So I don't really need the BP code. It's for internal people on that task. So I end up with the task window of B1 time task. I put in a button on that, and when I press that button, I run a universal function. And I can see I need to do a little so we can see this better. There we go. So essentially, I'm using running a macro of that, and macro can interact with print and delivery. So I say run print and delivery number 21 as an email. So 21 is this one. And I essentially, when I press that button, send an email to the people on the task to get a status. It could just initially be a notification. I have now created this task for you, or whatever you want to set up. So this was 3 examples for live. We also do a few more. We do very advanced stuff like setting up if you that you get reminders a few days before your invoice is due. We have internal error systems that check up and send out feedback emails every month. So for example, I have one here. I actually got live today while running this. A monthly error feedback from usability package where we collect some error messages and find the data. So with that, I would like to open up for questions. Write them in chat or raise your hand, and I can unmute you to talk if needed. All of this have e-learning as well, and this session will also be on YouTube end of the day. But if you have any specific questions or want to see anything specific I did today, please feel free to ask in question. If not, I will just remember you that our last feature focus session of this year will be on the 15th of December, where the topic will be the quick creates, and we have something called customization and lookup providers, which I have spelled very incorrectly here. There we go. Again, thank you for attending this. Questions, write them if needed. I give it a few minutes. Else, feel free to disconnect at this time. And again, thank you for attending. Okay, there seem to be no questions. Have a nice day, everyone.